Welcome to the third episode of the NAP podcast, where today we'll be talking about the recent Valorant World Champions. Here we have Adam, Zoom, me, and we'll have some special segments, including our new cast members, who haven't talked before actually, but we'll be roping them in for this episode. We've also changed our recording location. The other one is, we live in Canada, so it's frozen. So we have a new recording location, and today I'll start it off with a segment on the duelists at Champions.
They will cover. Fire in the hole. Spike down A. One enemy remaining.
Okay, oh my god.
Defenders win. Ace.
Unfortunately, there are, for us NA people, looks like our duelists haven't been able to perform up to expectations. Tens in most of his knockout games, even in CSGO, seems to be unable to perform under pressure. And that's really unfortunate considering having your fragger suddenly go under expectations in a knockout game means you generally...
Tens is speedrunning back to Kaide.
Facts.
Tens betrayed us.
Tens literally you should have seen him on Kaide's stream. Tens are just sitting in the back, huddled up, like just watching the rest.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling. Can we make it out of groups, please? Please,
yeah.
Can we not get farmed by the minor regions?
Sentinels kind of okay, when they first lost to Crew, I was like, wait, why would Crew beat Sentinels? But Crew's actually really good. They almost made it to the finals over again.
The
molly, but they've already pushed through.
He ran through. Oh no.
On the back side, they won't expect
Oh
him
no.
already.
Oh no.
Man.
So close, man.
What a game.
So close.
What a series.
But on the other hand, hey, all the other regions duelists are absolutely crazy. We have Durka,
I think we should start importing Julie.
Yeah,
I think it's
time. It's literally
time
1 year after the game comes out, and now it's time to start taking in other duelists from other regions. Like Durka is actually really crazy. One of our cast members, Dalton McNabb, talked about Durka in our first Valorant podcast, and Durka has absolutely lived up to the expectations. He was super explosive against C9, against all of his group stage teams. Durka was absolutely explosive on Fracture, on Raze, on Jet. I think Durka is definitely one of the top 3 duelists in the whole tournament for me, as well as Kesnet Deuce from Crew, who absolutely dominated over Sentinels. Kesnet Deuce was a standout duelist for me as well.
They're all Rainer's right there.
But one of the biggest things of this tournament, not for the playstyle, was the shit talk between Brazil and NA. Adam, do you want to talk about what happened between Zombs?
Can we say that?
Just bleep it out. Someone bleep it out.
Okay. Alright, so another big thing that happened through this tournament was the smack talk between Brazil and North America. Do you want to weigh in on that?
So it's Brazil. I don't know what anyone expected. We went in with, first of all, I think the biggest problem was the camera, right? That was what started it all. Brazil used
Vivo Kid.
Vivo Kid used quote unquote illegal camera that was like one way or whatever, and you couldn't shoot it. And so that got all the Brazil fans hyped up. And then came the Sentinels like infamous washroom break, where Shazam during a technical pause went to use the washroom. That got a lot of
trying to get it done. But what they're doing is they're dwindling the rounds where they can actually try real strats, and they're becoming more and more readable on those rounds because it's unlikely they're going to continue.
Controversy, and that started all the I can say it, right? Yeah, all the shit talking. Mr. Zombs, CEO of NA and Rolex, decided to say, can't wait to beat your shit region to Brazil. And I think Brazilian fans took it way too personally. Started talking about like the country's like conditions and whatnot. I think it's just Valorant talk. But you know, it was interesting watching Sentinels get beaten by Crew, and for some reason all the Brazilian fans started talking like, oh look, we're Crew now. Anyways, you know, they gotta chime in somehow, and so I guess Crew was the perfect chance. I hope the next Valorant tourney isn't held in Brazil though, because I'm gonna be
Yeah.
honest, someone's gonna die.
Gonna have to bring bodyguards like Hiko during his CS games. Yeah, I feel like the environment that EU and NA have when they smack talk each other is like a lot more friendly. It's like it's banter. It's just banter across the pond. And at the end of the day, I still prefer losing to EU over losing to Brazil. Not like NA is gonna lose to Brazil anytime soon. Yeah. Well, anyway. Yeah, so the duelists for NA seems to be underperforming across EA and TENS, and the duelists for all other regions such as Latin America is Kesnadus, Durka, Shados, Defo, like everyone performs really well, but I just don't understand NA duelists' inability to perform under pressure. For example, TENS is, someone made a post way back when, TENS is something like 0-9 for knockout games in tournaments where he's about to get eliminated. And he seems to underperform. And I think it's just a mental thing. Perhaps, like many of the players in the tournament in their interviews said, that NA teams just have to practice more. Like, I'm pretty sure for Sentinels, a lot of them were streaming, like, non-stop during the tournament. And I think, yeah, streaming helps bring in a lot of fans, helps, you know, have some player to fan-based interaction, but practicing and scrimming against other teams is ultimately what's going to win you tournaments, and that kind of teamwork that gets bonded through the scrims is very important for tournaments such as these. And I think for NA we could have definitely tried to practice a little more like Gambit did. I'm pretty sure Gambit did a boot camp where they practiced 12 hours a day. And so that is their first segment for our duelist evaluation. So here we're going to talk a little bit about the off-season, any roster changes, stuff like that. I think generally for NA, the rosters have been like kind of shaking up since a long time. Because the thing with VCT structures, if you don't make the challengers, you got nothing to do for the next 5 months. And so teams like TSM, Rise, NRG, they haven't made like any international tournaments in the past whole year. They've just been playing in regional tournaments.
TSM's also been needing a bit of a shakeup. We saw the original roster with Drone. That one consistently underperformed, never made it to any actual real like big Riot events. And so I think the new shakeups are, these teams might not be doing like to actually improve. It's just to shake stuff up, just to get like maybe a new team dynamic, just to hope something changes.
Yeah, there's a big difference in some teams where some teams are aiming for, they're gonna find a few players to build up around, and then they're just trying to mold that team and like work them through. Whereas other teams are going for a complete roster like wipe. There are some teams in the EU region getting absolutely nuked. Like Vodafone Giants only kept I think 1 or 2 members of their team. And Vodafone is actually pretty good. They gave a lot of the top EMEA teams like a run for their money, but looks like their coach wasn't happy with it, and they just cut almost everyone. Same with T1 has been. T1 is like one of those teams where they're a team, but you never see them play in anything except like regional games. And so you have their original roster with Ska and all those guys hasn't really been seen much recently, and I think they're settling down with Curry. And Steel, who was dropped from 100 Thieves, will be moving to T1 for the new season. I think Andbox is dropping Alexander. I think Andbox is very interesting because a lot of the star duelists we see nowadays, like Ye, Alexander, all these guys who are aim gods, have all been through Andbox, but Andbox doesn't seem to be able to fully utilize them. I think Fnatic had the right approach, which was after their initial, like 8 months ago, their initial run in Valorant Masters, where they hit the finals with Sentinels, despite getting 3-0'd, they just kept the exact same roster, did some minor changes in like agent selection across their players, and they, in my opinion, they improved a lot. And Durka, they managed to facilitate their duelists, and their team play was a lot better because they spent 8 months playing the game together. They barely streamed, they just practiced so much for those 8 months, and you could see that in their game. They literally played perfect, like strategically, and they played off of each other so well, whereas other teams seem to be slipping up and like miscommunicating.
That is one thing, but you also look back on Sentinels, right? They have nothing changed. I think agent selects have all been the same, and that team is going to the dumpsters right now. I'm really surprised they didn't change anything. I expected maybe coaching change or like just some sort of change, just like, you know, because the team atmosphere, you gotta think it's pretty bad right now, right? You lost pretty early in Berlin. You got knocked out by a minor region in the most important tournament. I think I expected anyways to freshen things up, get like some changes in there, but it seems like they want to stick to it again, and I hope they do better this year.
Yeah, I hope they grind it out, figure out their problem, because like we all have been Sentinels fans since they won Masters way back when. We're wishing their success and hoping for their success, but it just doesn't seem to be in the cards as of right now. I think some of the T2, T3 teams are having a bit of shakeups. I'm interested to see how things turn out for the next VCT. There are a lot of teams actually. There's like a lot of NA teams, and but the thing is, because of the way VCT is set up, we only see the same 3 or 4 teams in international tournaments all the way through. So it feels like NA only has like 5 or 6 teams, but actually there's a lot of teams North America has.
See, this is where I think Valorant can maybe take some pages out of CSGO's book. I want to see qualifiers be an international event, right? I don't want to see NA teams play NA teams and the EU teams play EU teams, and then sometimes during the knockout stages, like, and I think Berlin, you saw NA on one side of the bracket, and you saw EU on the other side, and it's like, oh, it's finals time, here we go. I just wish maybe they could put some more international events in there, and also maybe, I don't know why they got rid of it, because the first one was double elimination, right?
Yeah, double elimination.
Double
bracket.
elimination, I don't know why they got rid of it. I think it would have been better to keep it.
Because especially with the minimal amount of international tournaments, a single elimination bracket where your favorite team only plays out of groups like one time if they get eliminated, that's just not, for the viewers, that seems like your hope just dies so fast. Or you just don't make it out of groups like Sentinels, and then our hope dies immediately. I mean, we did have hope with C9, but C9 then got eliminated pretty fast as well, so yeah, North America not looking so strong.
This is also the question where you ask, are we going to import out, right? We talked about how strong the EU duelists were, and I really think we could pick some of them up. And this is, I guess, also where Riot comes in. Another question is, are they going to put any guidelines, like any regulations over how many imports you have? Because I'm really interested to see how much we'll import in this game, because traditionally NA just is not as strong as EU or the Asian countries. Another thing is China. Are they gonna maybe join in? Because I think Valorant now is available in China.
Yep.
And historically, they're good at esports, but CSGO is never their strong point, and I'm interested to see how Valorant will turn out.
I think with imports, it's kind of interesting because most teams seem to be building around duelists instead of controllers. The controllers and supports often are the players that are traded and swapped out to other teams and are kicked off. I think most of the vast majority of roster changes have been around support players, and teams seem to be holding on to their duelists. So I don't know if we'll be able to see lots of duelist imports in the future, because everyone's trying to hold on to their star duelist. And especially there was a post about the terrible implications of the TENS buyout, because if teams try to hold on to their duelists like C9 held on to TENS, then it's going to cost every team millions of dollars to pull in a player that may or may not perform. Like you saw C9 Jack's post about timing the market with TENS because TENS underperformed. It was a little bit of an unnecessary tweet, but it makes sense that if you pay millions of dollars for a duelist, you expect them to perform through the international tournaments. And so it's a bit of a risky play with importing duelists, and yeah, we'll have to see how things shake out.
Yeah, this also plays to, I think, how sustainable is Valorant going to be. We're off to a really good start, I think, really explosive start. But if Valorant keeps on going this way, right? You say like each duel is like a few million. This game isn't gonna last very long. Either players are gonna be unhappy, and it's not like League, right? Where once you're committed to that game, you're committed. I think FPS skills can translate to a lot of other titles, and so especially for Valorant and CS:GO existing, we've already seen some pro players make the switch.
Yeah.
We've seen CS:GO players switch to Valorant. We've seen Valorant switch to CS:GO.
Yeah.
And so this is pretty topic to think about, right? Because if players are unhappy, what if they move to CS:GO? And so what's gonna happen to Valorant in the future?
I feel like it's a more healthier situation sometimes because you could have your players play what's most comfortable for them, and at the end of the day, if you enjoy Valorant more than CS:GO, of course you're gonna make the switch. We have Automatic from T1 possibly going back, same with Nitro. 100 Thieves, after they kicked out Steel, who's by the way now in T1, and then their coach Frost is gone, they upped one of their analysts to the head coach position, and I think 100 Thieves, they literally, after that one Masters tournament, they just blew up their roster. Now we have, who is it? We have Ethan, we have Hiko, and we have Asuna. Of those three, only for sure Asuna is staying on the team, and it looks like they're kind of taking him off the main fragger position, and they're looking for another main duelist, while as Asuna flexes duelist and secondary, such as smokes or flashes.
Well, that's a scary thing for me because Asuna's this high sense, like really aggressive player. I think there's going to be a lot of growing pains associated with him making the switch. Right, we've seen him do these flashy plays, entry fake. I'm just scared that if he starts entry fragging a bit too much on Sova or Brim, that it's gonna hurt his team a lot. I also expect Hiko to stay, as long as Hiko wants to stay of course. I think 100 Thieves would be happy to have him. He's this veteran, he's been this voice in the team. And he's not necessarily being outperformed by the other. He's one of the best clutchers, I think, in NA. And I think any team would be glad to have him.
Yeah. Like a lot of teams in North America, or I guess all across the global Val community, they're like very in need of good in-game leaders. I think in-game, like IGLing is very difficult for most players to do because you have to maintain focus on not just your own personal mechanics. You have to like zoom back and look at the game from like a eagle's eye view, a strategic view. And there's very few like good IGLs in NA. There's like Vanity, Shazam. You have one on Envy as well. I think besides the duelist role being so highly like contended for and like sought after, I think IGL is definitely something that we're gonna need in term like for 100 Thieves. They weren't happy with their IGL of Steel, and I think a good relationship between a coach and an IGL is also very important, and those are also sometimes they come into conflict because both are supposed to make calls in game, and who do you listen to if they have different ideas. I think in-game leaders is definitely something that we need more of in Valorant for sure.
Yeah, I'm also, I guess, less concerned about IGL, right? Valorant's this new game. For duelists, you play CS:GO, your aim transfer over, you can play duelists, no problem. IGL games these new weird maps like Fracture keeps on coming out. I'm sure it's also hard for the pro players to stay up to date. I'd say maybe give it a few more years. Hopefully if Valorant lasts that long, I think IGL is going to be... You're going to get a lot better IGLs. Another thing was Valorant just takes less brain than CS:GO, right? So you have all these like super high mechanical players, 10 screen, making the switch, and it just looks like they're popping off. I don't think any good CS:GO IGLs are gonna like switch games anytime soon. Maybe if they retire, I think. Which one? Oh, what was it? Kerrigan? I think Kerrigan might retire soon, and I really hope to see him in the Valorant scene. He's been this CS:GO veteran for a long time, been performing really well, and I really wish we can see him in another game.
Yeah. And that concludes our off-season Valorant discussion. I know it's heavily focused on North America, but hey, we're NA men, so thank you for watching this segment of the NAP podcast, and I hope to catch you in the next episode. Peace. Okay.